I'm Kevin Casey from Canada. I was a first time author when I met Vicky, and she helped me get through my very first book and saved my sanity. The book is called Unselling. So it's UN in brackets selling, and it's actually how to sell for those people that would probably rather sell their firstborn than have to go out and sell anything. And there's a lot of freelancers and entrepreneurs who have a gift for the world, yet they're hiding in the shadows because of their own fears and their own stereotypes of what selling needs to be. And my job in this book was to show them that you can sell without having to sell out who you are or pretend to be someone that you never want to be. The reason for writing the book um, was during COVID. I just had this, we all had, the whole world stopped and we had a lot of time in our hands. And I look back over my 23 years of selling and I realized for 10 of those years, I sold all the wrong ways. And I wasn't really liking the person that I saw looking in the mirror. And when I started to understand there was a better way to sell in 2021, I had this idea of writing a book because I said there have to be other people in the world like I'm feeling, that even if you're doing well in sales and you don't like the person looking back at you in the mirror, or you're not very proud of the way you sell, or maybe you don't even want to tell your kids you're a salesperson because it feels embarrassing. I felt if I was going through that and I found the escape and the way out, I thought there's got to be hundreds or thousands of others that must feel the same way. And this book wasn't really about putting food on my table. I've got a successful company that I run with 80 employees. This was more about getting it out of my head and maybe giving someone a shortcut so they don't have to go through the misery I did for selling the wrong way for 10 years. Uh, as I said, I wasted a year and a half muddling around. It was like I was in quicksand trying to figure out what this book was. I shredded the first 100 pages because I felt like it wasn't right. I was confused on who my target audience was at times. I didn't really understand the structure of a book, even though I've read hundreds of books. You get so close to it, I just couldn't see it. And I ran into a business guy, John McCullough was his name. And he mentioned Vicky's name. And I think late one night when I was frustrated, I decided to book a consultation with her. And I've been with her ever since. And it was never like a course. I felt like I had a business partner in calming me down and helping me see that this book could be a reality, because there was times going through this process that I wondered, was I ever going to finish it? Would there ever be a book? And Vicky broke it down into very simple steps. She's very clear. She sometimes tells you things you don't want to hear, but you need to hear. And I think that's very important, that she just doesn't kind of go along with it. And she held me accountable. And, people can't write the book for you. But to me, she was like a fitness coach in a boot camp, but it was for getting the book done. And it was the best investment I've ever made. And I really don't know if the book would have been launched in December 2023 if I didn't meet Vicky, because I wasted 2 years before I was referred to her. It was like she joined a conversation in my head, and she has great empathy, yet she's firm. She's very clear, and there's a beginning, a middle, and an end. And sometimes when you meet these consultants and coaches, there's no roadmap and you never know where you're going. With Vicky, it's all very laid out. I mean, I did a full planning day with her, and that was 6 hours, and it was the fastest 6 hours of my life. But I also felt like the rock was lifted off my back, because she got me as a writer and someone that was vulnerable and, a business person. I'm a business guy who's grown two businesses, yet this was getting the best of me, and she calmed me down, and she just understood exactly where I was. And that's what makes Vicky so great, is that she's been there before and she solved it for a lot of complicated personalities like me many times before I came along. So she gets it. It's is, I think the biggest one is um, you actually have a plan. So that whole idea of chaos to calmness, or chaos to clarity. It's a very lonely process writing a book. Yeah, you can do a course on it, maybe on Udemy or a YouTube course, but to actually have a other live human being who's written books before and has worked with hundreds of other people doing the same thing, I think the second benefit is someone that's been there, done that. So it just gives, that person has credibility. They're like a sage. And the third thing is to have someone to kind of pick you up off the floor a little bit when things don't go well, and to show you that this is a normal part of the process, so you don't feel weird or unusual. You're just going through what every other author has gone through. They're the three big things for the journey with Vicky. The book got done, and the book was a better book because Vicky made me rethink some of who my reader was. When you're an author, or you're a first-time author or a struggling author, sometimes you get caught up thinking it's about you. And Vicky always reminded me, this is about your reader. So where are they at this point of time? And where do you want to get them to next? And then where do you want to get them to after that? And what happens after that? And to me, to be able to take chaos to clarity is what Vicky's superpower is. And she just happens to be very nice about it. But that niceness is not to be confused with being a yes person, because she holds you accountable. And at times she gives you the truth that sometimes you don't want to hear. And she did that for me several times, but it meant she was a trusted advisor and not a book coach. I mean, I think a book coach is a misnomer for Vicky. I think she's so much more, because she sees the big picture. I have recommended Vicky to others. So, you know, authors got to figure this out on their own. I think most people believe they're smart enough, like I was. I believed I was smart enough to do this. People told me my whole life I was a good business writer. I wrote lots of blogs. I was on LinkedIn every day. I actually thought I could do this without a book coach. I would have laughed at that earlier on. A lot of authors have reached out to me, and I can tell them to go to Vicky and recommend it, which I have, but I need to see it in their eyes that they need to reach that point themselves. And, my story to them is, why would you want to waste 2 years like I did? I hope